When Elon Musk, the world's richest man, launches a bold tweet about a political leader, everyone stops to pay attention. This time, the target of his comments was the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, and the reactions were not long in coming. From Canadian voters to international journalists, everyone began to pick apart the implications of what Musk had said. Some wondered if a tech mogul had the right to intervene in another country's politics. But, let's face it, Musk's power is such that when he speaks, public opinion can do nothing but listen. And this time, his comment about Trudeau left a mark. The funny thing is that Musk is no stranger to politics. After harshly criticizing German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, he called him a fool in German, as if world leaders were a playground for him. But his criticism of Trudeau was different. This time, it was not a distant attack, but a direct criticism of the Canadian Prime Minister's management. For many Canadians, Musk became the voice they themselves could not express. Fed up with years of flawed policy decisions, they couldn't help but be relieved by such a blunt comment. While some accused Musk of seeking attention, others applauded his outspokenness. If anyone knows about the clean energy industry, it's Musk, they said. And the comparison with the Trudeau administration was inevitable. Remember the carbon tax Trudeau pushed through as part of his plan to combat climate change? He presented it as a visionary step, but it soon became a headache for ordinary citizens. Living costs rose steadily, and what was once a daily necessity, such as heating the house or filling up the gas tank, became an economic burden for many. Canadians, already struggling to make ends meet, began to see the tax as a way to squeeze more money out of their pockets. And when the much-touted refunds arrived, many saw them as a mockery, minimal help in the face of rising costs. Meanwhile, companies began to show signs that they could move to other countries with more attractive tax policies. What was initially an environmental policy was now seen as an economic disaster in sight. And it was in this context that Musk, the electric car tycoon, decided to intervene. Someone who in theory should be the biggest advocate of green policies, he did not hesitate to openly criticize Trudeau for his focus on climate change. Musk not only criticized the policies, but gave voice to the frustration of citizens, who felt that their economic needs were not being met while the government focused on the environment. But Musk wasn't the only one. In 2023, Trudeau proposed an increase in the capital gains tax, which mainly affected the wealthiest. The idea of taxing the rich more to fund social programs sounded good on paper, but in practice, it caused a brain drain in capital. Businessmen, investors, and entrepreneurs began to look south, on the other side of the border, where the fiscal climate was much kinder. The reaction of the economic sectors was not long in coming. Venture capital associations and startups warned that raising taxes would stifle innovation and jeopardize the economy's growth. An Angus Reid poll conducted in May 2023 showed that 58% of Canadians opposed the increase, concerned about the consequences of losing vital investments for the country's economy. But Trudeau's saga did not end there. His handling of immigration was also questioned. Critics accused the government of being too permissive, allowing people with problematic backgrounds to enter, sparking a debate about national security. Reports from the Canada Border Services Agency revealed that more than 200 people with ties to criminal organizations had entered the country in the past 5 years. And the government, instead of showing control, insisted that everything was under control, which only led to more mistrust. The situation worsened when a man with a history of violence in the United Kingdom was arrested in Toronto in December 2023 for his involvement in a violent robbery. The indignation was immediate. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre denounced Trudeau's approach as a disaster for national security. Meanwhile, citizens wondered how it was possible that the government could not prevent this type of situation. To make matters worse, Trudeau's ethics scandals were still the order of the day. The SNC-Lavalin case, which had already caused a great deal of controversy in 2019, remained a hot topic. The accusation was clear. Trudeau had pressured the Attorney General to drop charges against a company that had interests in Quebec. It was not the first time that Trudeau had been involved in an ethical scandal. The case of his vacation on the private island of Aga Khan in 2016, where he also violated conflict of interest rules, was another reminder of his lack of transparency. With all this on the table, Trudeau found himself caught between his own faults and external criticism. Musk, with his direct style, became the amplifier of the problems that Canadians already saw coming. It was not just another criticism. It was the reminder that, in times of political chaos, the words of influencers like Musk can have a lasting impact. Trudeau, caught between criticism of his economic policies, his handling of national security, and his ethics scandals, faced an uncertain political future. And, if he thought the storm had passed, Elon Musk took it upon himself to remind him that there were still many questions to be answered. The situation escalated when Trudeau's opponents began to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Musk's comments were not only seen as an isolated criticism of a businessman, but as the manifestation of widespread discontent with the Prime Minister's leadership. Those who had been fighting against the policies of the Trudeau government now felt they had the backing of someone who, while not Canadian, had shown an understanding of how economic policy works globally. Musk's criticism of tax policies, particularly the Canadian tax system, was just the beginning of a series of statements that ignited debate in the media. Musk, known for his blunt opinions, did not remain silent and continued to openly question the direction in which Trudeau was taking his country. In a subsequent tweet, Musk suggested that the Trudeau administration was sacrificing the economic well-being of Canadians for an idealistic, ecological agenda disconnected from reality. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party, under the leadership of Pierre Poilievre, saw an opportunity to capitalize on growing popular frustration. Poilievre, a politician known for his fierce opposition to Trudeau's policies, stepped up his speech, using Musk's criticism as a springboard to promote his own vision for Canada. It's time to make tough decisions, not move forward with measures that harm Canadian families. We need a government that focuses on prosperity and not an unrealistic agenda, Poilievre said at a recent event, resonating with those who felt Trudeau had lost his way. But not everyone saw Musk's intervention as a positive. Trudeau's defenders quickly took to social media to defend the Prime Minister, arguing that Musk was misinterpreting the Canadian government's intentions. Proponents of climate change policies claimed that carbon taxes were necessary to reduce emissions and encourage the transition to a greener economy.